Welcome to the Brew. I'm your host, Lex. Today we have the lads, Traders Workshop. We're going to tackle Iron Condors. I know we talk about this a good bit. There's some new interesting metrics. I've been messing around with these a little bit myself in SPX. Obviously, 0DT. Jason's going to give us a little heads up on what Volin's showing. Mark's going to give us some optimum sort of strategies, I think, to get the most out of these ICs. Let's have a look at this today. Should be interesting. Bam. Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good morning, Lex. Good morning, Jason.
Good morning. How you doing?
Besides the little snafu of getting on this thing and this morning, I'm doing good. I'm doing really good.
Hey, you're better than Oprah. Oprah shut down the SIBO yesterday for a couple minutes, right?
She did?
Yeah.
How did she do that?
I don't know the specifics, but there was some trade processing or trade feed processing error.
Oh, got it. Okay. Interesting. So how you guys been? Good? So this market looks like it's death warmed over, every day. Just ugh.
Not even warmed.
It's not even warmed.
It's like a Lex and Mark wine hangover.
That's a good point. Yeah, there's been a lot of those lately. Yeah, so let me set this up real quick. So I can't tell you how many demos and discussions I have with customers about SPX and the 0DTE thing. It's just insane. And I kind of figured out why. I think I get it. It's a cash settled index, super cool. You can let it expire worthless. You don't get any stuff. You just get cash. And you get the 60/40 tax treatment on it as well. And it's big options, right, Mark? These options are gigantic. So granted, you don't have to do as many of these to make some money. And the prices you're getting now, the premiums are huge too. So there's a huge incentive to be placing strategic premium collecting spreads out there that I see. And people are getting in these and getting out and going off and doing their thing. Are you guys seeing similar stuff? What are you guys thinking?
So, go ahead, Mark. I'll be talking a lot later.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that from what I've seen data-wise from the SIBO, that it's exactly that. They're incredibly popular. And it's like these Iron Condors are the perfect risk-managed way to get into spreads. And that's what the SIBO was saying, right, is that something like 95% plus of the trades in 0DTEs from a retail side are defined risk spreads, overlays, short put spreads, short call spreads, more on the short side. But Condors obviously fit into that.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yep, that's what I'm seeing as well. A ton of that. Every new client we talk to is, hey, what's SPX like? That kind of. It's the first question I get every time.
Yeah,
and Iron Condors are fascinating because, as a market structure geek, they parallel the history of options markets so well. If you just they are, a strategy as old as the markets, and they've really evolved into now this 0DTE type strategy,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think they're fascinating as a trade structure and how they've evolved over time.
Yeah. And one of the things that I did a little show the other day with Molly on Iron Condors. We did a kind of an earnings play show, and I'm a big fan of what I call the trade plan, let's say, and I like to have a strategy that takes advantage of first implied volatility, what the expected move is in the underlying. And, you got to have probably a little directional bias technically especially on an earnings move. But I like having a 3-to-1 or more reward to risk ratio. What I mean by that is if I pay $1 for something, I need to make at least $3 as a max profit. Okay. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Or more, preferably more. Now, some of these spreads in these earnings stocks, they're crazy, and you can get 8-to-1 kind of stuff, right? Because of where implied volatility lies. Now, here's the crux of my point here is and maybe this is for Mark and you, Jason, is you don't get that metric with an Iron Condor. You're selling something probably for 70, 80 cents in the morning and trying to peel 50% of that max profit out, which would be 35 cents in this example. And your risk is, you know, if it's a $5 Condor, it's $5 minus 70 cents or 430. That's the opposite sort of reward to risk ratio. However, the probability of profit's very high, right? So do you compute that in somehow to make this all make sense?
Yeah. So the true definition of reward to risk is not just what's my profit to what's my risk. It's correct. What's my profit times the probability of success over the risk times the probability of failure.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. And that's a great point.
Yeah. A lot of people, when people determine 3-to-1 return to risk, I mean, I'll give you 20-to-1 return to risk with a 5-wide butterfly. I get 20-to-1. The probability of success on that is very, very low. So
that's a good point.
You're not going to make 20-to-1. So you kind of always have to include that probability of success into your return to risk ratio. And then when you're doing that, you're just hopeful it's over 1.
Yeah. So you want 1 plus if you can get it.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And that's like statistical edge.
That's right.
Yeah, so I mean that's kind of that's like a common thing I see in retail spaces is people saying, hey, I could get 10-to-1 return to risk on this, but they don't calculate the actual probability of success. I'll tell you guys what I see a lot in zero DTE. So basically, Volland has upgraded last July to Volland Live, and we used to only update once a day, and then we increased like our processing and our calculation and all that stuff. We increased the frequency of it, and now we could show every 5 minutes. Because of that, you could see zero DTE very profoundly in Volland, and you could see where the market is going, and it actually increases your success rates and what to expect in the market. One thing that I've seen a lot of, though, is a lot of combo trades. Okay. I think that there's institutions out there, not like retail. Retail, I think, is like you guys. For the most part, I think retail is kind of structuring things, which makes a lot of sense. The implied volatility is very high in the beginning of the day. You can really, take advantage of the collapse and just on a time basis. Mm-hmm. But what I see a lot of is a lot of like combo trading. Like today, I mean, I'm looking at the zero DTE. I look at Charm because the time value runs out quick. It's the zero data expiration, so time value runs quick, and it's showing very bearish on the dealer hedging side, which means that customers are actually positioning.
Whoa, what happened? You okay over there?
I'm okay. Are you okay?
Jeez.
That wasn't me. Who was that?
I don't know. Mark.
Oh. I think that was me. A little bit of an earthquake going on out here.
Whenever we have like a loud noise, we got to be like, "Oh, is that a joke that you guys too old for that joke? When somebody farts, you go like this and make sure it's not you." Okay. Anyway, I have kids. That's what they do. Anyway, so what I see a lot is now sold puts and bought calls, but the market is tanking. And I think what's happening is a lot of combo trades by hedge funds and institutions. They would short the market, you could say 100 delta, 1 delta, mm-hmm. and then they put on a spread, like a collar spread, and sometimes, buying both sides. They put on a spread to kind of hedge that trade. Mm-hmm. And honestly, like that, when you kind of see it that way and you see the way dealers are about to hedge, our zero DTE, like I have these alerts on my Discord, mm-hmm. and one of our subscribers, Dr. Zayas, not the Dr. Zayas from Planet of the Apes, but he named himself that, so he is what he is. But he puts together these charts, and it's just a candlestick chart of the day, but he puts in like the bubbles of where I'm seeing dealer hedging going. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty accurate. I mean, it works more often than it doesn't. Sometimes when it doesn't, it's just because there's like like a CPI release or FOMC
Sure.
meeting or something like that directs markets in a different way. But yeah, I mean, so that's, I think in the aggregate, which is what I'm looking at, that's what I see is a lot of option positioning is counter to what the market is doing, but it results in dealers hedging with the market. It almost creates momentum moves at times.
Nice. So, Mark, what are you seeing on your end with these ICs? Do you have an optimum strategy or something that you like, or you're looking at some things as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of the beauty of the condors is that you can really do it at any level, right? Like Lex, you were talking about that 70 cents one. It's going to be pretty far out of the money, right? Like
Yeah.
you're not going to get dinged very frequently on that. But I'm actually surprised, and that's got its own return profile. Those are decent, chinks, and obviously sometimes you're going to have that loss. But what I'm surprised by is just how fat the premiums are on some of these at the money or closer to the money condors, right? Like you can actually sell some decently fat options, in the 30, 40 delta range and collect real premium. It's sort of the same as that put selling ETF, right? That like you're going to have a lot choppier of a result profile, but that can actually be decent too, right? So it's all what flavor do you want, and the beauty of them. You can shorten legs, you can close legs.
Yep.
I love it as a structure because I think there are successful strategies in a lot of dimensions with it.
Yeah, I think that's right. So what do you think's going on with the play on these 0DT Iron Condors? Are people, what I've been doing lately, and again, I'm dabbling a little bit in this, and it's been very successful. I'm letting the market open, make its wiggle waggle. I know I don't get optimum premium because I let that happen, but I get a better space, and then I'm using my expected move, putting my Iron Condor on beyond the expected move, right? And then as the morning wears on a little bit, when I get to 50% profit, that baby's off, right? That's what I've been doing. Now there's pitfalls there, right? If I'm always taking 50% profit, you can't take 100% loss, even though it'll be very infrequent, right? So maybe there's got to be a metric on the stop side of the similar amount. So, and I think you lose a fraction of the time. The probability of profit here is huge on these.
So there's two things that pop out to me.
Yep, let's hear it.
The first is, I understand that you are extraordinarily rich, and you're affluent, and you buy all your things, and you have empty nest. You have to be careful of pattern day trading.
That's for sure. You got to have enough money in your account.
So you have to have enough money in your account.
That's right.
Lex, no problem with that with Lex.
No, but it's a good point because it's you need to have $25,000 in your account to do day trading. Now, I will say this: if you let that expire worthless every day, which I'm not prescribing, then it's not pattern day trading because you're not closing that trade out, and it's cash.
Well, the other thing you could do too is you can do the opposite trade on the condor on the other side of the ledger. So in other words, like if you were doing a put condor.
Yep.
And you just, bought it and not doing an Iron Condor, you can close it with the opposite trade in the call side, and you're okay.
Oh, so yeah, you just box it all up.
So yeah, you box it all up.
You box it all up, and
I didn't want to say box it all up.
No, but that's what it is, right? So those are a series of boxes that wherever it expires, it washes everything out. That's a good point, and you're not trading the same one.
Because I think there is value to closing it, right? Like I think, the way a lot of these things wiggle and waggle, like there's a lot to be said for taking that 50, 70% profit, right? You get a little decay, take it off the table, take your risk, like, because these can zag the opposite way too. I mean, that's why they have all the juice in the first place.
That's right.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry, Jason.
So I was about to say, the second thing I could tell you is, you guys have been, your Volun subscriptions, correct? I could show you how to dredge more edge out of the 0DTE Iron Condor using Volun.
Can you tell me now before I have to start my Thursday?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Bring it up.
Let's go to the Volun chart. This is like
All right, are we sharing?
This is like one big plug for Volland. I love it. Let's
Well,
see
and
this.
also, well, I mean, that's the zero DTE. A lot of people are just in Volland just to see this stuff. I mean, a lot of people like to trade zero DTE. Like you said, you know, if you're getting 70 cents on a $5 spread Condor, and then closing it early, that's, you know, 70% per day. So that's not bad. That's not a bad deal. So here in Volland, like, so one thing I notice, as the day goes on, zero DTE option, like the dealer book, looks very symmetrical. I mean, it's a little early in the day. I guess 10:22. There's this huge spike in 41.75. That's bullish, but basically positive charm. I use charm again because it's, you know, the last day, and so it moves the market a lot. Positive charm is bearish. Negative charm is bullish.
Okay.
All right. And a lot of times you see these kind of like twin peaks over here, and you see a lot of positive charm on both sides. That's typically it's dealers are going to be long puts and short calls. Okay. This is a bearish thing, and around like 1:30, 2 o'clock, you will notice, you know, dealers start to step in. They kind of warehouse their risk at this point, but they step in and start hedging their risk. And so charm and Vanna flip sign as you cross strikes. So what we could expect is probably a drop. These will kind of flip to red. We'll see how this above price pans out, but you could probably target about 41.40, 41.45, this area right here. And I wouldn't say it would close there, but that is probably a print that you will see today closer to the end of the day. So if you did an Iron Condor that centers around that level as opposed to just wherever the money is
What
right
is
now.
that level? Sorry, I can't see.
41.40, 41.45 right here.
Okay.
If it's bearish, kind of like a good rule of thumb, if it's bearish, the largest green spikes on the downside are the target. When it's bullish, when it's twin peaks red, the largest red spike above the price is a target. Okay. So right now the market's at 41. This is 15-minute delayed, but the market is, you could get 20 points before the end of the day here at like 41.40, 41.45. So you can probably put a condor around there. I would say there's a higher probability, at least than the options are pricing, that you will see that print.
So where do you place your short legs then? So you've got a short put and a short call to deal with. What are you suggesting?
So
based on this data, where are you placing your short leg?
So first, I would leg in. I would not do the bullish one until you reach the target. I would probably do an at the money, like, you know, 41.60, 41.65. You're getting $2.50.
Yep.
Give or take, right? It's like a 50-50.
Yep.
That will, you know, and as price drops at around 41.40, you could either close it or you can put on the other side of the spread. I would be more apt to close it, because even though this is a target, that doesn't mean we're stopping. Sure. So yeah, I mean, and if you want, you can do a kind of a butterfly here. I also don't recommend that because you want liquidity in zero DTE. You want to be able to get in and out pretty easily. Yep. So I mean, verticals and stuff like that, unless of course you're doing like an Iron Condor and waiting all day. This is kind of that would be my strategy, is probably, I call it like the coin flip vertical, which is, you know, $2.50, kind of bearish, putting the current price in the middle of your vertical and then taking it off when you reach the target.
Got it. Okay.
I was going to say butterflies though, and SPX cash settled. That's a huge advantage for trading a butterfly. You know, anywhere in between, you don't have to deal with any of that wonky delivery.
Right. Yeah, I had some subs in my room doing butterflies. There was one guy, Steve, who was doing 5-point butterflies on this strike, and it definitely paid more than the probability. Like you lost a lot because that's kind of, you know, it'll get to the target and then bounce around and then, you know, do its thing. But when you win big.
Yeah,
it's kind of fun.
I mean, that 5-point vertical is like 20 cents. It's like a 10-point out of the money.
Mm-hmm. So, but you're also not holding this throughout the day, right? You're taking your profit at some point or no?
Well, you take your profit when you reach your target, 41.45, 41.40, and it's usually solid. You're probably getting like 50%.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. I like it. Now, what happens? What do you do? Someone's going to ultimately ask, let's say you get in decent prices and things go a little south or north, whatever the case may be. It's going to pressure one of the sides of either the put side or the call side. Okay. So we're talking still 0 DT, not a longer term expiry. What do you think the strategy is to sort of maneuver through that? At some point, do you just take it off and say, uncle, or do you keep rolling down the side that was good to keep more premium in it, to start collecting, and then you ultimately into an iron butterfly of some kind, maybe, or even worse, inverted, right? Or do you just say, get me the heck out?
So, I mean, this really is a question of what your thesis is going in. I mean, if you're just doing Iron Condors and coming out with 50%, and your thesis is basically that volatility is overpriced in 0 DTE options, you get out when you realize the volatility is not overpriced in 0 DTE options, whatever metric you're going to use, whether it's, straddle prices or, just that it moved more than your expected value. Again, when we do kind of like a Volin sort of thing, it's more, did all these bars change, which usually means that somebody came in and bought something or sold something, some kind of large player came in and did like 10,000 options on SPX. So for me, it's because sometimes also dealers are warehousing the risk a little bit, so it could go against you a little bit, but eventually it comes down as long as nobody goes in and starts, selling calls and buying puts or, changing the structure in any way.
Got it. Okay.
So I think that's really what the answer is what is your thesis going in? And then when when you're proven wrong, get out.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think this sort of strategy just absolutely lends itself to these bots? So you create a trade plan that's automatic. Why you get in, even if you have adjustments built into the bot, or you just get out. It seems like it's just a layup for that sort of strategy. Having it automated, because it takes emotion out of it. And one of the things I found too, while I've been doing this of late, is, I have a day job, right? I do other things, and I don't look at the computer all the time. So
you have a day job?
I have I got a day job.
Other than this?
Well, no, I mean, it's not like I'm selling shoes at the Kinney's. No, I mean, I got some business development stuff I got to do. But I notice I don't look at the screen as much as I probably should. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's a bad. But at the other side of it is, if I don't put my profit order out there before I stop looking at the screen, I can screw myself. And that's a problem, I think. So there's a huge discipline here too. I don't want to make it sound like this is very easy. It has been easy, I will tell you that. But don't discredit the discipline part of this. And I think some sort of automation probably helps you.
I couldn't agree more. I think like a strategy like this that is trading every day, like the edge is in the execution, that discipline, that being there every day, being like, oh crap, the spoos are down, it's 60 points. I'm still selling that put. I'm like, the reason it justifies itself in a back test or whatever your, the perceived source of edge is, like, is because you're out there doing it every single day.
Yeah.
And not overriding it and not second guessing it and taking your profits with discipline.
Sure.
Yeah, I think lack of discipline erodes your edge. I mean, your edge is in what you have. The lack of discipline erodes it to zero. And that's why even though people can have the greatest edge in the world, they will still, go bankrupt because they don't do it. As much as I said how much, my trading strategy is when I deal with these kind of spreads and stuff and this stuff in Volin, I also am not looking at the screen every day. I'm, doing a lot of programming stuff, improving Volin, and so I swing trade more than I day trade, just because of time and availability.
Sure.
But if the fact that I'm not looking at the screen, and if I don't have it automated, which I don't, because Volin doesn't have like a API thing yet,
Yeah.
real soon, but I can't take as much advantage as you can with your automation.
Yeah. So one of my compatriots is doing this a similar strategy, but on his own sort of dynamic, right? And he's weaved in using some ATRs and some underlying movement metrics that create a trigger for him to actually initiate the trade. And unless he gets that trigger, he won't do it. So, that's interesting too. I'll have more on that maybe next time when I understand it a little better. But this person needs to see that ATR or some percentage of that ATR breached before he places the trade at the spot where it breaches.
Yeah, well, that makes sense though, because like I said, when you put it on naively just to collect implied volatility or collect premium, you're essentially, your thesis is these options are overpriced.
That's right.
And when that average true range gets too high, that is the violation of your thesis. You are proving yourself wrong. It proves you wrong. So you gotta get out when your thesis is wrong.
Right. Now let me ask you another question. I know we're getting to the end here, but I just started looking at this in earnest of late with a 20 handle on the VIX. What do we do with a 12 handle on the VIX? Is this spread as fruitful? Now, clearly the short legs are going to pinch in to get 70, 80 cents on an Iron Condor, right? But there's a reason for that. We're not moving as much. So do you still do this strategy or do you push this elsewhere?
So, I mean, yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Oh,
you're not going to be able to hear anything I say. They're mowing the lawn right behind me. So
no, I thought you were getting a haircut. I mean, good God.
If when VIX comes down, as Mark and I have said, there's usually a reason. If it's coming down and it's low, it's probably not low enough. You would still probably pinch, but again, what your thesis is that it's too expensive for the underlying movement. It's not, it's not going to be anything, it's not anything different if the market is barely moving. But the other thing to note is that VIX is a measure of 30-day implied volatility in general on SPX. You are trading 0 DTE. That is a completely different implied volatility measure. And even that VIX 1-day thing, I find it's a little bit too spiky and doesn't really indicate much. Right. I know Mark has mentioned before in the show to use that at the money straddle as kind of like a benchmark for how wide is this straddle, how much is the straddle going to cost,
right?
And that's like a better benchmark for your implied volatility. But so I wouldn't say VIX 20 versus VIX 12. It'd be more like what is the straddle cost tomorrow, and use that as your metric.
Okay. That's all good. Yeah. So what I want to do too, offline here is I want to understand that charm metric better. You went over that today, and I don't think I understood the target prices and why they are there. I didn't understand that yet.
Okay.
So I'll work with you.
I mean, so I have a user manual. I know this is online right now, but I have a user manual on my site. It shows you, we call it the 4 paradigms that are named after papers that stated that the paradigms were doing what they're doing.
Yep.
So you can, for anybody who needs help, you can join our Discord. Me and our moderators will help you out. It's actually not a hard system to grasp.
Sure. So here's a plug for you. What I would say is to the folks, when you're doing these sort of things, it's, it's very difficult in the off-floor world versus what I did for a living being a market maker. You have to have some sort of, I'm going to say, signal, target, idea, trade idea generation, whatever you want to call that, a reason for doing this trade. It can be implied volatility. It can be Voland. It can be ATRs. I don't care what it is. It's got to be something that makes sense. It's somewhat mathematical and logical, and it gives you a reason for making your trade in the first place, right? So I'm a big fan. I think your Voland thing is probably a metric that most people don't understand yet, but it's so powerful that they should understand it, and they should really, really learn how to use that to their advantage to make a trade idea generator, right?
Yeah, there is a little bit of a learning curve with Volland. We're working on like a learning management system to get that to steepen that learning curve a little bit, or shorten that learning curve. But I think the biggest thing, as far as trade planning goes, is you have to understand what your thesis is. And I know a lot of people and there's like this income trader theta collecting kind of community out there that I'm just going to put the Iron Condor on and let it ride until it's 50%, or I'm going to put on this butterfly and let it ride until it's 25% gain or something like that.
Sure.
You kind of have to understand why people are saying that works. And the reason why is because options more often than not are overpriced. And so you're collecting kind of a variance risk premium, but you also have to know there are times in which those options are not overpriced. Otherwise they wouldn't be priced there. So you have to kind of, okay, so that's my thesis. Now I have to make a trade plan, an exit plan that matches that thesis. And that's why that ATR thing that you were mentioning before makes total sense if what your thesis is these options are overpriced.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, good. That was a good one. I like that. I'm gonna keep collecting my data. I am using our system, TradeHawk, to manage in our strategies this trade. I do it every day. I open it, close it, and I put it in the strategy tracker and keep track of the running P&L. Now, I will say this before we leave. I did have a hiccup. I made a mistake and lost nearly full value because I was being dumb. So I have a little bit of ground to make up.
What happened?
You know what? I made a mistake on expected move, and it's just a little mistake. It only cost me nearly the whole amount. And then I realized that I probably need some sort of stop beyond the whole amount. I think to make it fair. Although we did a back test on it too, and we just did 90 days. I want to see what a quarter looks like. And in the course of the quarter, if you stuck to the combination of our two strategies with my coworker, we lost 2 times in 90 days using that strategy versus collecting the rest. That's pretty good. Now you're going to have natural losses. I get it. I think they've got to be mitigated because you're making little bits of money all the time, and you can't lose it all in one trade after making 20 wins in a row. It doesn't make any sense, right?
Yeah.
So I'll keep plugging away and come up with something.
As they say, you're eating like a bird and shitting like an elephant.
Yeah, you can say that. We can bleep that out. Okay. That was one of our favorite sayings on the trading floor. You can't do that. You got to avoid the second part.
Right.
All right, Jason. Good one. That was a good one. I enjoyed that. So I'll talk to you after, and have a great rest of the week and weekend. The Iron Condor 0DT. We're gonna stay tuned on that. All right. Take care.